Welcome into the Boston Sport. I am your host, Arnett, and I'm just a cool guy talking about the four teams that he loves. And I am so happy to be here on the Grid Network. And I'm telling you, we have a jam-packed show tonight. We'll get into the Celtics and their 9, along with Jason Tatum. The big words that came out of his mouth over the All-Star break. We're going to get to the ungrateful fans. According to 85's The Sports Hub's Toucher, that's going to be a heck of a segment right there. And then we have the Bruins, who are in a weird slump right now because they're losing game, but getting to overtime. So they're at least something out of it, but they still end up losing those 2 points. One, they're just not getting the other. But there's an opportunity to improve on Friday because that's when the trade does. And as we all know, Donny has some history of getting players at the trade deadline. It's going to be coming up in about 15. But first, we're gonna be talking about a Dynasty episodes and 4. Now with Dynasty in their episode, they decided to go into Super Bowl 36, talking about AFC Championship game and Super Bowl 36. Then they fast forward a spy game. First, let's start off with the AFC Championship game. New England travels into Pittsburgh on their tickets to New Orleans. They were expecting to blow us out. One of the best things that I saw on that was we're doing the coin toss, and you have Brian Cox and Jerome Bettis going back and forth. And Cox, we're not afraid of you. We're not afraid. That dude was a beast at linebacker for New England, and I loved every second of it. And so it was good to see. I thought Bledsoe Brady dynamic happened in that game. You know, where Bledsoe came in near the end of the second quarter and helped guide the Patriots to Super Bowl. And yes, I say guide because let's face it, if you look at that game, you rewatch, Bledsoe wasn't the main reason why we won the game, right? Bledsoe's the guy who just did what he was supposed to do and didn't turn the ball over. Now, the Patriots were moving down the field before Brady got hurt. And you could argue that Brady would have scored a touchdown on that drive because that was the infamous throw in the back end zone to David Patton from Bledsoe. So that drive that Brady got hurt. But if you think about it, they totally glossed over the fact that Brown's punt return, as well as the blocked goal attempt that went for a touchdown. Right? They totally just decided not to talk about that at all. And it's all because everything is solely focused on Brady. So, and as is, that was true. Again, as I talked about last week, the problem with having Brady versus Bledsoe, is the fact that, again, Bledsoe wasn't the same guy. He wasn't the guy in 96 that brought them to the Super Bowl. Okay, he was older, beat up a hell of a lot more. He took he took 100 sacks in 2 seasons, 99 and 2000, the year before Brady joined in 01. So yeah, I'm getting a notification. If everybody can hear me all right, apparently there's a echo going on. Let me know. And I'm trying to check back in. So yeah, well, let me know. And we'll keep it moving until it's going on. Because if worst case, these headphones. So like I said, Brady and Bledsoe thing. Now him helping us win the game in championship, went to the Super Bowl. Yeah, definitely a conversation to be happy because it was a out. And in 6, actually, I did kind of enjoy the discussion on the backstage happened. All the players were pissed off that they didn't have their certain room, or their room small. And hear Lawyer Malloy talk about how he had here how is that? Let me know in the comments if you'll hear me. That sound better. So with Lawyer Malloy to Belichick and saying, "Hey, I want a bigger room." Belichick just not give out anything. He goes, "Fine, Lawyer, take the head coach's room. I don't need it. I don't care." Be honest. Belichick wasn't gonna spend his time in his room. He's gonna be in the room watching film 24/7. I highly doubt that Belichick even went to even slept in his room. Even the one that he switched out with. I would be shocked to hear that. But funny part about that is the fact that they used that for the week to rag on lawyer. Oh, how do you got enough space? How's the bed? Is it comfortable enough for you? I thought it was absolutely hilarious. But going into that game, they left out a lot of the details into that game. The multiple picks that Kurt threw, the massive home call on Marshall Faulk. Willie McGinnis hugged the crap out of him. When Bucky Jones scooped up the fumble and ran it 97 yards. First down. Totally forgot about that, which it's kind of an important thing because that's what set up the 2-yard run by Kurt Warner. Again, no one wants to talk about that. And yet, then what bothered me not only in that episode, the episode prior, but then in the Spygate, I'll talk about in a minute. The Ernie Adams bugging the living crap out of me. His mantra, just the way he's like so standoff. He's kind of like Bill, but a little bit more crazy. More out there, kind of crazy, but you keep him at arm's length. That's how you want to talk to this guy. But it's the whole thing, and then obviously with the minute 21, fourth quarter, Patriots are tied up with the Rams. Everybody in the world is saying that, including the Patriots are just going to fall down. They're going to run the clock out and overtime. And with Ernie Adams, saying, well, it was all him because he told Bill basically that defense was tired and they probably would not stop Louis if St. Louis had the ball in overtime. Versus and then Bledsoe comes saying, yeah, Tom, F that, sling it. Like, can we just please? I don't need that extra commentary. Commentary I need is watching Bill figure out what he said to Tom. And don't forget, the first 3 plays were all downs to J.R. Redmond, one of the most underrated Patriots in the history of Dynasty. Because not only was J.R. instrumental in the snowball checkdowns that he got, but also in the Super Bowl. Because Tom Brady nearly got sacked on first day of that final drive that set up Vinatieri's game winner in Super Bowl 36. Brady nearly got sacked, and I'm pretty sure J.R. Redmond was just an absolute loud, and he gained a couple of yards. Tops. So the fact that they still stuck and then went on, obviously, ball game, Patriots were world champs for the very first time. You know, the cool thing about that, obviously, was yes, the name Patriots were Super Bowl champions after tragedy 9/11. I don't get me wrong. I mentioned this before. I was 9 years old when all this down. I knew about 9/11. And, what was going on. I remember getting dismissed from class because we were in the middle of school. 9/11 happened. Obviously it was cut wicked short. But what the thing about Super Bowl was for me, as even though I did know and how cool it would be for a team like the Patriots, because let's face it, red, white, and blue. The Patriots were the people that beat redcoats to obtain our freedom over so on and so forth, right? It would be cool for that to happen. To me, it was my team. It was the team that I was with my father all along. When we would wings from Brothers Pizza, eating those like that was our. I remember watching the game 6 with my parents and my dad's best friend and his wife. That was our Super Bowl crew for Super Bowl 30. It was so awesome. And then where the streets have no name, guitar solo. It's like in my mind watching the flag of all the names up, listening to guitar solo of where the streets have no name. It's unbelievable experience. But to me, I wanted the team win. That's it. I wanted to see my team win. I didn't even know the betting lines. I know there was a spread. I didn't know any of that. Patriots, Rams. We lost one of them early in the season. Now let's go out and beat their ass, which we can't. But Mike Martz, forgot to mention him. Mike Martz was awesome. I loved how honest he was, and saying how, he totally believes that Belichick told them to do all of that, and he goes, yeah, people cry, baby, but that's the truth. Like, hey, at least he owned up to it. Definitely entertaining portion of that, no. But what really me was how this is called the Dynasty, and I made a little reel about my Instagram. So if you want to go check that out, you can see right down here, Instagram Boston Sports Summit. Also, I'm on BOS Sports Summit. I got my own YouTube, and then obviously I'm on the Grid Network. So like, share, subscribe, please. Thank you so much, and follow me. Don't forget. I made a little reel about talking how disappointed that I was because I first saw episodes 1 and 2. I thought, okay, this is great, and then the way they broke it up, I was worried because I'm like thinking I thought do 2001, 2002, episode 1, episode 2, 2003, 2004. Every 05, 06, so on and so forth. And when I saw that wasn't the case, and I saw episodes 3 and 4, Super Bowl 30s, and then Spygate, I was kind of all right. Let's see things with this, Yet I thought they did a grave disservice to the reason why this team is called the Dynasty, the first dynasty of the decade. They just glossed over it like it was nothing. 2002, yeah, we didn't make the playoffs in the final game of the year, but then 2004, I got this on that reel. 21 straight games, including right and postseason combined. It's a 15.6 point, went 34-4, and went back to back. A dynasty. The closest thing that they came to actually talking, glancing over 2003, winning the Super Bowl, and then at the parade, Teddy Brisky in his interview, saying how somebody came over to him or called them and said, "Hey, bro, if we win next year, we would be a dynasty." And the closest thing we got to it, because then after that they cut Ronnie Harrison's interception in Super Bowl 49, where the Patriots won. In case you couldn't, that's the there it is, logo right there. So yeah. And so the Dynasty, and then they went to 05 with Champ Bailey's interception without Ben Watson's hit, and all the way across the friggin' field, knock him into next week. That ball 1,000% went over and into the end zone and out of bounds. It should have been a touchback Patriots ball, but the referee screwed that up. And Brady lost his perfect record in the playoffs. But glancing through that, I thought was one of the biggest traps that they did to this past years, those teams, because to see kind of what it took, what happened behind the scenes, how they got everybody to come one. Bringing Corey Dillon for that second of the back-to-back. How this guy who was all about himself in Cincinnati somehow turned on a dime and team-centric. I'm going to do what's best for the team, right? And so they needed that. Plus, Jackie McMullen had a phenomenal quote. Jackie McMullen had a phenomenal quote where she discussed how Bill Belichick was becoming a genius, Brady being compared to Montana, and Robert Kraft is becoming one of the most powerful owners in sports. Now, just to skip a little bit, do you think Robert Kraft becoming one of those powerful owners in sports had something to do with the fact Bill Belichick remained on the team and didn't get fired by Gate? But the whole point of character, you're supposed to watch the rise of that character. They get to the peak and then watch the fall. Isn't that what to do in America? We load people up just to tear them down. You know, by 2007 and Spygate, we were the villain %. And sometimes, you know what, it's fun. It's fun. It really is. But that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see, guys, the teams that made us Dynasty. 2001 did not make Dynasty, folks. It was 2004, the Jacksonville Super Bowl that committed the Dynasty mark. And it's a shame, an absolute shame, that Dynasty and Kraft Sports Products, Robert Kraft is 100% this Apple TV has treated this the way they have. You know, it is an absolute bag on Belichick because of how they treated him. They're making him look bad. Now, fast forwarding to Spygate, this is where everything just kind of unfolded, right? Eric Maney, and I loved kind of Scott Pioli talk. You win against the family. You against the family, like that. It's so true, and that's what man did, and maybe that's why Belichick became the way he became. He isn't this guy. So how do I say this? He is so outgoing, that's so open, that's honest with people. Very reserved, he's very kept to himself, and I think a good portion of it is because Genie ratted him. Now, whether it's true, I mean, it is true, but whether it had a major impact or not is beside the point. The point is, Genie against the family. He went against Bill, held him out, and Gate happened. So the beauty of that was I love to see how the whole team rallied around Bill. They hated Bill, but they eventually rallied around him because Teddy Bruschi, when he broke down one of the games, he said, "Coach," it was probably after that Jets game or San Diego game, saying that, "Hey, Coach, coach, like this one. And the whole team, Teddy's like, Teddy's like, hey, how do we plan for Coach Belichick? Belichick. Oh, like that breakdown. So that they rallied behind him. That offense was dominant. They left out several key games. That Baltimore game was tight. They almost shouldn't have won that game. Then to fast forward to 2007 to Super Bowl 42. Before I get to the Super Bowl, I will say having Robin Glenn, talk about how she destroyed the tapes and how they filmed her with the freaking hammer walking the hallway. I was such a joke. Oh my God, was that just so stupid? Watch that, like, oh yeah, here I go. I have the hammer in hand. If you that, I heard this on Felger Mass. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. If you're gonna do that, give a freaking sledgehammer, man. I mean, come on, just play it up, will you? Super Bowl 42. I didn't realize what was going on during that with Brady and Zell and the paparazzi with his, a lot of that. I totally blacked out because that had the single worst sporting event in my life because I was for dead that the Patriots were going to win that. I was dead the Patriots were going to win Super Bowl 42, and the fact that Samuel, they missed that one. They should have included that. Ball went through Asante Samuel's hand before the helmet catch. The helmet catch. Tell you how many times I paused the TV to see holding there, hit pause, holding there, play, pause there. There's so many opportunities for that to get called. Now, granted, yes, they did have Eli Manning's jersey in hand, but you could see the offense pulling them back around their throat, pulling them back, and it's still obviously can you tell? Bothers me to this that had happened. It's yeah. And then Super Bowl 36, the Super Bowl 36 after 3. The fact that they brought Bill Parcells in, I know I'm back here a little bit. The fact that they brought Bill Parcells and they talked with him about his time here, who cares? Wasn't a part of the dynasty. So think how interesting that these messes happened on Robert Kraft's watch, right? So I just thought that nice little piece. Next, I want to get into a team that looks like they're going to actually compete for a championship. Now, they're going to get is the $1 million question, because if we know anything with recent history, or maybe this whole team's history, they're not going to get far. You might make a run or two, or round or two, but they won't get far. The Bruins right now are on a head that is very bizarre, because they just finished up their West Coast trip and they point in every single game because they went into overtime, and they only won one of those overtime. So out of the 4 games out west, they got 5 points because they only won one game. It's a very, very weird kind of slump that they're in. They're good enough to get to over to gain that point, but for some reason or another, they're just like, nah, we don't mind. We got our point. We're good. We're gonna go home because it's been dumb plays, lack of effort, or stupid shoot attempts. I mean, good God. Sometimes can we watch David Pasternak do that move and just I already explained it. When he didn't score, it looks lackadaisical because it goes right into the goalie's chest. There is no rhyme or reason. So they haven't had a solid since the All-Star break, since their second game the All-Star break, where they shut out the Canucks, nothing. this team, honest to God, is in desperate need of a solid defenseman. Someone both physical on the blue line and provide some offensive weaponry. Whether it's in the puck, whether it's scoring, some playmaker ability would be great. They also need physical presence on in the six, to help them out. So before I to the guys that I would trade for or would love to see the Bruins trade, I want to talk about the guy to part ways with. That I'm done. And starting off, I think you're all this. Linus Ullmark. He's got a $5 billion. He's 30 years old, and what? You can't play two goalies in the. The only problem with him, he has a 16-team no trade clause. That means 16 teams. I don't want to go there. Even if the Bruins have the best offer in the world, let's say it's no Anafin, Kanav, and the Calgary first round pick for this coming draft. Mark can say no, I don't want to go to Calgary, and then there's nothing they can try to put him. But if he says no matter how many times, it's not going to happen. That trade offer that I put out is a magical. That would never happen in a million years. But in my opinion, I think Swayman's turn. I want to see how he's going to perform given the reins, right? Somebody is saying that my audio is going in and out right now. Emmy is hold on. Is this good? So all right, let me do up front here, up close, to the microphone here. Let me know in the comments if this out. But so like I said, I want to see how Swayman does. I want to see how he is at true number one gold. Right now, he has the comfort ability to rely the fact that Linus Ullmark is going to get an equal amount, if not slightly more amount of games than he does. And Swayman's looking for a payday. Right? Swayman is looking for a payday because they went to arbitration with him. So he's going to be a free agent. And there's an in and out sound repeating thing going on. All right. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Here, let me try something. Let's see how this. Let's just go straight up. Let's go back to. All right. Can you hear me now? Let's check the settings, make sure it's on the proper audio. Yeah, external. It's good. All right, cool. All right, so now we're squared away with that. All right, we're back, baby. Let's go. See, I knew it was something. These mics, you spend so much money for them, and then they just, But so getting back to my point, I believe it's Swayman's turn, right? I want to see how he reacts to being the number one guy. That to me is the biggest thing, that I know. Because again, you can't play two goalies in the playoffs. He's going to be a free agent. The Bruins took him to arbitration, so the man's looking to get paid. And yet, if he doesn't have that opportunity to be the number one, I understand why the Bruins don't want to pay him as the number one. because they're already paying Linus Allmark $5 million. And they're basically even split, right? Allmark's getting 41 games. Swayman's getting 41 games, give or take. And so I want to, and again, at the end of the day, it's better to know now about Swayman than later, or let him go because you're too cheap, or you don't want to move off of Allmark, and he goes out and becomes the number one goaltender and probably one of the top goaltenders in the league. You don't want that to happen. So I am comfortable letting a 30-year-old Allmark get traded now, get rid of that $5 million off the cap, and hopefully bring in a sizable return for the Vezina winner, right? Former Vezina winner, I should say. And also, Brandon Bussi is our backup in Providence, who's the number one goaltender, and he's 6'5". He's a big dude, man. He's going to be a restricted free agent at the end of this season. So bring him up. Give him a handful of NHL games, because we know that this team is a playoff contender. So if we can get some money off our books and, check out the new guy, see how he does, I would love it. I would love to see how that goes. But that's my first guy. Linus Allmark is definitely a guy I'm willing to part ways with. Another one, Jake DeBrusk. I've had a big problem with him for the last few years, because he has had kind of this up and down career. He's performed well at some points. He's performed poorly at others. He went from being this consistent 20-goal scorer to a guy looking like he's phoning it in some, if not most nights. And he had that tiff with Bruce Cassidy where he requested a trade from the team. They obviously didn't abide by that trade request, and they decided to fire Cassidy at the end of the season, even though Bruce Cassidy made the playoffs with the Bruins every single year, including that playoff run in 2019 that went all the way to the Cup final. And because of that, I think DeBrusk is soft. I think he's weak-minded, and I know he can't take tough coaching, because that's what Bruce Cassidy is. And I would love to just have him. You know what? I've seen talks for him to go to Edmonton. Fine, let him pair with Leon Draisaitl. He'll be a good guy to have on the team, and you know what? He'll probably make a heck of a lot more money playing with Leon Draisaitl than he is playing with Charlie Coyle or Pavel Zacha. Two other guys that I want, that I'm willing to part ways with, are Matt Grzelcyk and Brandon Carlo. The two of them make $3.687 million and $4.1 respectively. Carlo's going to be an unrestricted free agent this offseason, where Grzelcyk is going to be an unrestricted free agent this offseason, whereas Carlo's under contract until the 27-28 season. Carlo, as it stands, has a 10-team no-trade clause, and I think both guys are done. Grzelcyk's hurt. You can't trust him in the playoffs. He turtles. He can't play up to that physicality. He's too much of a skill guy on the blue line to, perform in the playoffs, because he never has. He's never performed in the playoffs, and those are your, 3-4 pairing defensemen, and that's not good. You can't have a Matt Grzelcyk, who's your, left defenseman in your second pairing, not show up in the playoffs. And I'm not talking statistically, I'm talking defensively, because that's what's happened. And Carlo, too many concussions, injury prone. Same with Grzelcyk, with injury prone. But I'm done. 4.1. If we can get him off the books and get a good return, great. Let's do it. Recently, Derek Forbort has fallen off a cliff. It wasn't too long ago where they were talking about how instrumental he was, and then he came back from injury only to, like I said, fall off a cliff. He is done. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent this offseason. He's making $3 million. If we can just, get rid of him, I don't care if we get scraps. Get rid of him. If we can bring in a big-time defenseman, see ya. I'm done. I don't need you. And then The only guys that I want to keep, obviously, you're going to keep Pasta, you're going to keep Marchand, but in terms of the newcomers, the ones that get talked about a lot in these trade, proposals, because the Bruins don't really have, many guys to offer that are worthwhile, right? I want to keep Matthew Poitras and Mason Lohrei. Now, in order to let Poitras go, I need to know we're getting a legit young top centerman, to implement right away. If we could get a young top centerman, then fine. I'm willing to let, Matt go. But Lohrei, no shot. There is absolutely no trade proposal, even if it amounts to getting Noah Hanifin. I'm sorry, we're gonna have to restructure that because we need Mason Lohrei. He's been arguably our second best defenseman since he's been called up this last go around, and so those are the two guys. Fabian Lysell, Johnny Beecher. Yeah, it would be nice to keep him, but I'm okay with letting him go. But everything is all about value. And now I don't want to have this warped-minded of, what value means. Obviously, I want to win the deal. It's Boston. What can I say? But it's all going to depend. So now moving on to the guys that I want. I want Trader Donny to go out and make these moves because he's done all of this stuff in the past, from getting Taylor Hall, trading for Charlie Coyle at the trade deadline, getting Hampus Lindholm at the trade deadline. I mean, a good amount of our roster has come at the trade deadline that it's because Don Sweeney has been a legit ace at trade deadlines. He's been unbelievable at trade deadlines. It's his drafting that he needs massive help on, or identifying top tier talent. It's either him or the scouting staff. If it's the scouting staff, they should all have been fired yesterday. But guys that obviously I want to trade for. Number one, Noah Hanifin. No two ways about it. I mean, the Bruins would love this because he's a local boy. Like, for some reason, local boys to the Boston Bruins organization mean the world. It doesn't matter if they're a mediocre player. It's like, they love it. They love the local boy feel to it, i.e. Matt Grizzly. But, the Bruins tried everything in their power to get him in 2015 when he got drafted by giving up all their first rounders. They had 3 first rounders back to back to back. And yet Calgary didn't bite on that, which I was like, seriously? And of course, I have a massive problem with their 2015 drafting, because they could have had Matthew Barzal, Sebastian Aho, so many guys that literally went right after their drafting. They got DeBrusk, Zaboral, and Zach Senyshyn, who's not even in the league anymore. And Zaboral is on his way out of the league. So, those are the guys they drafted over Matthew Barzal, a number 1 center. Sebastian Aho, a top winger. Like, seriously? Are you stupid? You couldn't identify that talent? But I digress. They tried everything in their power to get Noah Hanifin. He's a stud defenseman. Yes, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent, but obviously Hampus Lindholm was the same way. If I can get the guarantee that Noah Hanifin will re-sign a long-term deal with the Bruins, I'm all in, baby. I'm all in. As long as we're not giving up Poitras, I am all in on that move. Now, if Hampus Lindholm is discussed, or teams are inquiring about Hampus Lindholm, and we get Noah Hanifin, yeah, I'm okay with shipping Lindholm off. He's hurt. He's played 2 seasons and has failed miserably both times in the playoffs. So, yes, I don't mind letting him go. But I want Noah Hanifin. And as long as we don't have to give up Mason Lohrei or Matthew Poitras, let's do it. Another guy I want, who's going to cost a little bit of money because Don't forget, the Bruins have about $60,000, give or take, dollars left of salary cap. So they are strapped. And this is a situation where it's money in, money out. They can't give away multiple first round picks in order to get Noah Hannafin. Hell, they don't even have a first round pick in this upcoming draft, but they do in 25. So they can't just give first rounders and expect that to work. So they have to make sure they get the money in, money out issue, which is why I'm okay. Allmark, DeBrusque, Grzelcyk, Carlo, hell, even, Lindholm. If you can get a really nice deal for, with Lindholm, then go for it. But Alex Weinberg, 29, he's got a $4.5 million cap hit. He's a good middle six forward. He's excellent on faceoffs, which the Bruins desperately need. They have not done well on their faceoffs recently. And Coyle and Zacha are 50-50, especially with what's gone on recently in this latest West Coast road trip. You can tell Bergeron has missed just solely because of his faceoff prowess. That's really a big issue that they need. So Wennberg can definitely improve on that. He can kill penalties, play in the man advantage. He can do it all, right? As a middle six forward, maybe a second line forward, I think adding him would make a great depth piece. So that way you can finagle the top three lines. One game you can have Zacha, Wennberg, Coyle. Another game you can have Wennberg, Coyle, Zacha. You don't have to go in order like that, but you can able to change it and shuffle your lines and see, hey, you know what? Wennberg plays great with Marchand and Pasternak. Wennberg plays great, with some of the other guys like Frederick and Richard. Yeah, Anthony Richard. Yeah, it's something like that. You could just test and see to have a guy, because let's face it, Zacha and Coyle, they're both middle six forwards. That's why they're probably not as great number ones, but they're playing well. I'm not trying to down Coyle and Zacha because I think they're both playing very well this season, but they still aren't having number one like performances. So Wennberg would be a guy I would be really intrigued in getting if Seattle is going to trade him. Another guy, a defenseman that I would love to have is Joel Edmondson. Super affordable. He's got a $1.75 million cap hit. Montreal's got half of that. And Washington is currently struggling. He's a good depth piece. Not a guy you're going to throw up in in your top defense pairing. Maybe not even in your second defense pairing, but to have that depth at, third defense pairing, maybe him and Lowride together, I think that would be an interesting combo. But again, Washington's struggling. They might be huge sellers at the trade deadline. So we'll see. Another defenseman that I like is Ilya Lyubushkin. And one of the reasons why I like him is because he plays for Anaheim. And as you may recall, we traded for Hampus Lindholm, who came from Anaheim. So to have Ilya Lyubushkin play for Anaheim, Don Sweeney's got a great relationship with Anaheim. And I hope that maybe Don can finagle something there where he can work his trade magic and maybe get Lyubushkin on the cheap. He's a good depth piece, blocks, he's tough, he plays very physical, and that's something that this team desperately needs. The amount of guys that just get away with practically murder against other Bruins players, including our goaltenders. Like, dude, no. Stand up for your guys. That's your job as defenseman. You got to stand up for your guys. So hopefully, that can work out. Lyubushkin's 29, got a $275 million cap hit. Maybe we can work some magic there. Sweeney can work some magic, and we can get him. The last guy that I would love to see is forward Brandon Duhaime from Minnesota. I was thinking Pat Maroon, but he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. I don't know if Minnesota can trade him or if they'd want to, but Maroon would be a great, not only depth piece, but just a tough SOB. And it would actually be kind of funny to see Jack Edwards call games for him with the whole he's too fat, which I'm sorry, Pat, you were. All right. But Brandon Duhaime makes 1.1. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. And over the last 3 seasons has 492 hits. Talk about one tough SOB, man. Which ranks 20th most among NHL forwards over the last 3 seasons. So those are some of the guys that I would love to see play, for Boston. And hopefully we can make a couple pieces like that fit, let some other pieces go. And if not, build for the immediate, let's say we get rid of, you would say we get Noah Hannafin, but we have to give up a lot of, good pieces like DeBrusque, like Allmark, so on and so forth. Then I think we can actually prepare more for the future rather than, this upcoming season, which I think would be great. So with the Bruins and their trade deadline coming up, it was interesting to listen to 98.5, the Sports Hub in Boston, and hear Fred Toucher, who is a native Detroit guy. He's a big Detroit fan. Talk about how Red Sox fans are ungrateful towards John Henry and how John Henry won 4 championships with the Red Sox. Because according to Fred, his hypothesis, he does say it's a hypothesis. So let's start off there. In order to summarize his hypothesis, he says, fans have always been negative since Henry bought the team and after they started winning. This constant nagging, complaining, can't get over the hump, always coming so close, Yankees are the mortal enemy, etc., etc. And so he goes on to justify his hypothesis by saying his qualifications, or what do you call it? Dad J or something like that. I put it into terms that we all understand. The qualifications are he's doing something baseball related 6-7 days a week. He goes to Sox and BC games because his son wants to go. His son plays baseball. And that he's lived in Boston for almost 20 years because he moved here in 2006. And to him, albeit fans are more comfortable in Boston losing or having a losing team, Fans are more comfortable having a losing team here in Boston, at least for the Red Sox. And what he fails to mention in his hypothesis, because trust me, not only am I not a huge fan of Fred Toucher, but this, I thought he totally glossed over everything as to why the 4 championships, while nice, don't matter. Don't matter towards our disdain and our hatred for John Henry and this ownership group, okay? Because he fails to mention that when John Henry bought the team, they were spending like crazy. They spent a lot of money on Johnny Damon, a lot of money on Manny Ramirez. Because if you watch Moneyball, don't forget that what's his face character there? Not Brad Pitt, his assistant there. I forget the guy's name, but he was saying that, Johnny Damon, the Red Sox spent that much money on him. And is he worth it? According to their numbers, no. Well, turns out that their numbers were wrong because Johnny Damon was instrumental in winning a championship after 86 years. So spare me your nerd numbers, okay? Moneyball, please. They spent a lot of money on Johnny Damon, Manny Ramirez. I would say David Ortiz, but nobody was interested in David Ortiz. He wasn't the David Ortiz that we all knew and loved, So they did go after him. I will give him that. But in terms of spending a lot of money, not so much. They spent a lot of money on J.D. Drew, Adrian Beltre, bringing in David Price, bringing in J.D. Martinez, spending a lot of money on those guys. All right? And then you want to talk about the worst contracts that they spent money on. John Lackey. Now, he was a key cog in the 2013 World Series championship team. And trust me, I'm like 50-50 because as instrumental as he was to 2013, his time in Boston was like very up and down, right? They went out to get Daisuke Matsuzaka, had that one good season in 2007. Matt Clement sucked. Hanley Ramirez, that's about it. Edgar Renteria sucked. Kyle Crawford sucked. Pablo Sandoval really sucked. Fat and sucked. So, yes, they have spent a lot of money and were actually able to trade a lot of this money and get it off the books. So there you go. See, look at that. You can trade and get that crap money off the books. So spend, damn it. Now, obviously, some have worked and others didn't. But the fans were excited. I remember signing Kyle Crawford and Pablo Sandoval. I thought that was going to be great. I thought it was going to be awesome. And then, of course, everybody was done with Crawford after that one season. And I was kind of like, well, hey, maybe let's give him another season. But it didn't happen. So, meanwhile, when it came to spending guys that rose up out of their own ranks and deserved, the high-end money, they were, no, we don't want to. We're good. Because they lowballed John Lester and Xander Bogaerts. Now, John Lester is the one that bothers the living hell out of me because in 2014, they just won in 2013, only to have Lester be one of the main cogs that 2013 piece. And then that offseason, they didn't do a damn thing about it. They were like, John, you're good at what? 4-90? What? No, he wasn't good. He wasn't good. And it was a slap in the face. Here's a guy who was drafted by the Red Sox, got cancer, overcame it, won the World Series in 2007 in his first, pitched a no-hitter, then goes on to be your ace in 2013 to win that season. And that's what you do? That's what you do. Like, talk about having no friggin' heart, right? Right here. None. John Henry, it's a black hole. It's a black hole. And so you do that, and then you end up trading him for Yoenis Cespedes, which I like. Okay. I thought that could have been nice, but then they traded him to get Rick Porcello, who it was either what was it? Like when he was on, he had a great nickname to him. But when he was off, he was Rick Porcello, right? And again, 50-50. You didn't know which one you were getting. But then they did the same exact thing to Xander Bogaerts almost a decade later. Same exact thing. And again, both guys wanted to be here. They wanted to be here. And if it gave them decent enough offers, they would have stayed. But you had to go so low that it was insulting to them. Absolutely insulting to them. And so for Fred Toucher to not bring any of these points up, not to mention them trading away arguably the face of baseball in Mookie Betts, because for pennies on the dollar, mind you, and do not tell me that Verdugo was good at any point, because he wasn't. Talk about a friggin' bum. Pennies on the dollar for Mookie Betts. And again, that was their sole purpose, because they wouldn't want to pay him. Even if they gave him the amount of money, which it's never come out that they offered that. They never offered him the amount of money that he could have made, which is what he's making in LA. But if they offered him that, maybe he would have stayed. Now, I don't know what's going on with Mookie. He says now if he got the same contract that he would have stayed. But there at the time, there were talks about him, the racial hatred. Who knows, right? I don't know Mookie from a hole in the wall. All I know is the stories. I don't know if they're true, if he's or if they're elaborate or over the top. I don't know. Okay, but would he have stayed if you paid him enough money? Quite possibly, but you didn't. And so you were like, getting rid of him because I don't want to be stuck on the books for a young kid, because he was young. He was like in his late 20s for however long for that much money. Cheap bastard, John Henry is. As I'm like doing all my research, I even found a Yankees article talking about Red Sox ownership's questionable moves. And, especially you talk about the Lester and the low balling of Lester, and them saying, quote, it's disrespecting the fan base, which is exactly what I've been saying. So Fred Toucher, explain to me how them signing all these big players for the first, 2/3 of their tenure, to them lowballing Lester, lowballing Bogarts, trading Betts, and you wonder why the Red Sox fan base. Oh, and I'm sorry. Did I forget to mention the standings in the AL East since 2005? Okay, in 2004, they finished second and ended up winning the World Series. So since 2005, the Red Sox finished second in the AL East with a playoff berth. Then third in 06, number one in 07. They finished second with 2 playoff berths in 08 and 09. Finished third in 10, third in 11, fifth in 12, then won it all at the number 1 seed in 2013. After that, they went last in the AL East, back-to-back at 14 and 15, only to finish first, 3 years running. The first 2 in 16 and 17, they made playoffs. And then in 18, obviously the best team, best record in Red Sox history, only to go third in 2019, fifth in 2020, second with a playoff berth, making the ALCS in 22 and 21, and then last the last 2 seasons in 22 and 23. 3 of the last 4 years, you finished dead last. You have lowballed fan favorites. You have brought in high-priced guys early on in your tenure. And explain to me, Fred Toucher, that this, and you wonder why we're so hateful towards John Henry right now, and be damned those 4 championships. Honestly. Because it's a friggin' joke, that John Henry is treating this team, not to mention, because even John Wall, I tried to bring up to you, but you refused to listen to it, the fact that John Henry, early on, around 07-08, bought or invested in Roush Fenway Racing, then went on to buy Liverpool, then went on to buy the Penguins, then went on to bring in LeBron James to the fold, spent $3 billion on the PGA that just happened. All right? There's a lot of disdain. And don't tell me that we were a miserable fan base when we were winning. No, we were just excited. We were expecting to win. And after 07, I would argue that it became a thing now. Because in 04, it's kind of a fluky thing. But then in 07, we were so dominant. We were down 3-1 against Cleveland. Came back in the ALCS, swept the Rockies in the World Series. All right? This is the stuff that he doesn't want to bring up. And I know it's a hypothesis, but he is an ignorant, moron for thinking that we were better off rooting for a team that is a loser. What does he call it? Fans are more comfortable in Boston having a losing team. No, we're not. We want a team with an ownership group that actually gives a damn, that will invest in the team that they own, not go out and buy other properties, not go out and buy other teams. No, stay with this team unless you're going to buy other local teams. So if he bought the Red Sox and then bought the Celtics, the Bruins, and invested in all of those, great. That's what you need to do. But if you're going to buy one and then buy Liverpool, then buy Pittsburgh, then no, that's not going to work. That's not how it rolls, especially here in Boston. A joke, an absolute joke. And the only thing I can wrap my head around with that he said was that as it stands right now, maybe John Henry is being spiteful because finishing last 3 of the last 4 years, he's definitely heard it. He's definitely heard us fans yell, scream from the top of our rooftops, from the top of our lungs, invest in this freaking team. He didn't with Bogarts. And if you want to tell me he invested with Devers, the problem with Devers, he wouldn't sign him until after the Winter Classic when the Bruins played the Penguins at Fenway, ended up winning, and you had fans outside when his limo pulled up holding sign Devers signs, screaming at him to sign Devers. And so he caved to the fan base. So please, did he want to sign Devers for the amount of money that he's making now? Hell no. Absolutely not. But he was forced to by us. Joke. Absolute joke. And then lastly, on a more lighter topic, for a team that is arguably the best team in the NBA, they have won 9 straight after their albeit interesting win against Philly last night, but a good win nonetheless because they attacked the paint like crazy. That was their game plan from the get-go, which is what it should have been and what they can do to a lot of teams in the NBA. Sometimes it just feels like they are listening to the analytics time and time again. And it's absolutely, sorry about that. It's absolutely crazy to me that that's their thought, right? That their thought is to listen to, the analytics and the nerds and say, hey, 3s are better than 2s. No. Because when you can drive in the paint and you can score at will in the paint, yeah, I'll take that all day. They only shot 22 threes last night. For a team that's averaging over 40 3-point attempts to shoot 22 times from 3, it was talk about a breath of fresh air. I mean, holy crap. That's just unbelievable. Scoring 64 points in the paint. That I felt like I was watching that game going, what Celtics team am I watching here? And so winning 9 straight, still has yet to lose to an Eastern Conference opponent at home in a full calendar year dating back to last season. It's a hell of a feat. I can't believe that. So I do not see why this team can not only make the NBA Finals, but can win. You just win. I feel like, Rocky 2, where Adrian is lying in the hospital bed. She wakes up and she goes, Rocky, I have one thing to tell you. And he leans in close. She goes, win. And he's kind of like blown back. And then she goes, win. And then you have Mickey going, well, what are we waiting for? Like that's I feel like this team, they could just go out and win the whole damn thing, the whole enchilada, the whole kit and caboodle. Any of you get that reference? Rookie of the year. But another thing I want to talk about is the ESPN interview with Jason Tatum and Malika Andrews, she asked him if he feels like he is the best player in the NBA. And he says, quote, "I truly do believe every time I step on the floor, I'm the best player." And there's two things about that. First of all, on the one hand, I love it. I think it's great. It's a hell of a confidence thing to expect that out of yourself. He's 25 years old. He's been in the NBA for 7 seasons. He's made, it feels like, 1,000,000 Eastern Conference final runs, one NBA championship appearance. And in this league, he absolutely needs that mentality because I'm sorry, but it's a single entity league. And what I mean by that is the term team means nothing in the NBA without the superstar. And Jason Tatum is by far the superstar on this team. And that's why if he can be that superstar, then that's what I want. Then that's the type of team that I know we can go far. On the other hand, though, the reason why I think it's bad is because he hasn't proven it yet. And I hate to use that cliche, but it's true. Because not only has he not proved it, he collapses late in games. I discussed this a few weeks back. Everything speeds up for him, right? When that Nuggets game, that final shot against Denver, he had 4 seconds on the clock. And I'll tell you, he moved so fast, and not in a good way. He rushed himself. And even he mentioned after the game that he thought, he felt rushed. He felt like he had to get the ball off, where it's like, dude, you have 4 seconds left. You can make a move and take your time. Not forever, but you know what I mean. 4 seconds is eternity for that final shot. And if you want to say to me, well, Tim, he balled out in Game 7 of the Sixers, so he can perform, when it counts. I mean, can he? Because Game 7 against Philly last year, he went off. He absolutely dominated from start to finish. There was no doubt the Celtics were walking out of there with a victory that night. It didn't take long for, I think, both Celtics and Sixer fans to realize the Celtics are going to win this one. There was no two ways about it. But check back in with me when it's late in game, they're down 1, maybe down 2, or it's a tie game, and it's late. It's final seconds, final shot. Everybody in the world knows the ball is going to Jason Tatum. And he gets the ball. And then tell me what he does. Can he make that final shot? Can he be the guy that will stare down his man, going one-on-one like Paul Pierce did against Indiana in 2002, 2003? Can he do that? And then take that sidestep 3 and bam, without skipping a beat, right? Can he do that? Because so far, he can't. And he's proven it time and time again that he is not good coming up late in the clutch. And that's the tragedy behind it, is he is so gifted, so talented. And if the Celtics go on and win the NBA Finals this year, and okay, fine, he wins the regular season MVP, then I think he could easily be the face of the league, the best player in the league once LeBron goes. But he has to prove it first. He has to go through the gauntlet. He's got to win. And that's why I like this team better without Marcus Smart, because if the Celtics with Smart won, all we'd be hearing is how great Marcus Smart was. Now, whether that's from the Celtics media or whether was going to be from Marcus Smart's own mouth, that was going to be the commonality, the phrasing. Whereas in reality, Marcus Smart was just a role player. He's a cog in the machine that runs behind Tatum. You know, if the Celtics beat the Warriors, that should have or would have been Tatum's coming out party as the best player. And obviously they didn't win, but it would have been a lot of Marcus Smart talk. I know it. That's why I'm glad he's off the team, because Tatum has now come into his own. He has now developed his leadership style. He's developed his identity that I'm the guy. I am the guy, and I'm going to play like the guy. I expect myself to play like the guy every time I step out on the court. So it's going to be interesting to me to see how this team does, because even he said that this team is more talented than last year. The team more talented than the team that went to the finals. And I don't blame him. I 1,000% agree with that. As long as everybody can stay healthy, this team should win. Period. End of story. You know, you want to say to me that making the finals is good? Nope. Sorry. Not in this city. Not in this reality. Because we're not a small market team. We're not a team that's, based in Atlanta, that's, based in San Antonio, based in, Minnesota, where it's like, or Sacramento, like, oh my God, we made the finals. That we're cool with that. No, not in this city. Not in this city. We expect championships. Doesn't mean that we're not smart enough to understand that our team might not be good, but they're definitely a playoff team. Yeah, we understand that. We can look. I mean, the Bruins are a perfect example of that. We know that talent-wise, that team, it's a playoff contender. But in terms of being the front runners for, winning the cup, no. And if you tell me that based on their points and their record that they are, like, yeah, but just off a talent perspective, they're not. Okay. So I'm excited to see what happens with the Celtics coming up. They obviously have I think 20 more games left in the season. So they can lock up the best seed in the NBA, fairly soon, as well as locking up the best spot in the number one spot in the Eastern Conference, because they have the largest lead the Celtics have had since 2008 over over the Eastern Conference. They have a 7.5 game lead over the number 2 spot in the Eastern Conference. They're dominating. And I can tell you this. Hey, I am excited to watch playoff basketball. And hopefully them and the Bruins are going to make long runs. Meanwhile, the Pats have to figure out what they're doing for the free agency and drafting. And the Red Sox, well, the longer I can go without talking about the Red Sox, the better, because they're going to suck. They're going to suck. They already gave up. John Henry's alluded to it multiple times. So thank you guys for watching, going live with me. I appreciate you staying through everything, all the technical issues, all the sound issues. I'm glad we got that squared away. I appreciate you staying with me through this hour and 15 minutes. It's awesome. I'm so pumped to be on the Grid Network. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, share with all your friends, family. If they're big Boston sports people, tell them to tune into this show every Wednesday at 7, and also follow me on all the social media platforms. You can see the Boston Sports Summit is on Instagram in the lower right. I'm on Twitter. I'm frequent on Twitter at BOS Sports Summit. Okay. I'm also on YouTube, posting all the videos, the segments, the shorts. They're going to be on my YouTube, Boston Sports Summit. And then catch me live every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern on the Grid Network. All right. Yeah. Right over there. There it is. All right. So thank you guys. And for the Boston Sports Summit, I am your host, Tim Barnard. As I've said to you before, I'm just a local guy who is talking about his 4 favorite teams and loves doing it. So appreciate you guys listening. God bless everyone, and I'll catch you back on next Wednesday. Got more action coming for you. See you then.